How many people born and raised in Easton in here? Got one.
Not in Easton.
Not in Easton. How many people have been here more than 10 years? Most of the room here more than 10 years. I don't know how much you know about Easton, but I'm going to tell you a story that's about the modern history of Easton. All right, I'm going to tell you about a guy, because he missed a train from New York City to Harrisburg, he ends up saving the city of Easton from total destruction. You want to hear that story? I want to tell that story. So listen, our hero in this story is a man named Hare. He's an artist. He's an architect. Very tall gentleman, slender, with very smart glasses, hair like a Targaryen. Game of Thrones fan. He's traveling from Australia. He just had a best-selling book where he did drawings of historic buildings that had been torn down called Vanishing Ink. And now he's coming from Australia back to America because he's going to publish his next book on the architecture of Pennsylvania. And he's going to publish that in Pennsylvania. And that's why he's coming back home here. So he travels in the JFK airport, takes a taxi, and misses his train, which has him end up getting on a bus. And that bus happens to take a 10-minute pit stop in the city of Easton. He gets off the bus. This is the first time he's ever been there. He's walking around the town. He's realizing the history around him in the architecture. He's realizing the beauty of the architecture around him. And then he notices something else. He sees an interracial couple over there, an interracial couple over there. And as he said, nobody seemed to care, nobody seemed to mind. Now you gotta understand, he was on his way to Harrisburg. That's where his family is. Harrisburg, 1976, not a very tolerant place. Harrisburg, I hope you're better now. Maybe you're better now, I don't know. So he was surprised to see this. So he goes back to the bus driver and says, I'm home. Go ahead without me. Now, over the next 3 days, check out what happens. He gets a place. He opens up his business, publishing house, so he's going to publish this book on the architecture of Pennsylvania for the bicentennial. It's 1976, it's 200 years there. He's 2 doors down from the Quadrant Bookmark. Now there's a wrecking ball next to the Quadrant Bookmark, and he finds something, he's talking to someone, he's like, what's up with this? And they're like, well, this is about to come down in 2 weeks, this building here. And he looks into it a little bit more and sees that this isn't the first building to come down, and it's not going to be the last. So he goes, he gets this big 10-foot cardboard of a tombstone and writes on it, I think it was, rest in peace, Easton, an uglier city is about to come here. I'm totally murdering what was on it, but that's the general gist. He goes into Center Square, he sets up shop and collects over 200 signatures in just a few hours, and then that night, he goes to a city council meeting to ask about what's going on with this building. City council's like, we don't want to tell you. Oh, it's part of a big plan. Oh, well, can I see the plans? Oh, we don't want to see the plans. Plans are somewhere else. Tim's like, well, I want to see the plans. I want to know if you have an environmental impact statement. This guy knows what he's talking about. He's an artist. He's an architect. He's a historic preservation. I don't know if expert. I'd say expert at this point. So he does a one-person sit-in and doesn't freaking leave until they show him the damn plans. And then they bring the plans, they spread it out. Again, he's an architect. He could read these plans. So now I want you to imagine something with me, okay? I want you to imagine that the Center Square statue, that they take it down, and on 3rd Street becomes a highway from 611 to 22. And they knock all the other buildings down, including the one you're sitting in right now. Right? They knock it all down. And they build industrial parks with parking garages. This was the plan. And this was a 4-phase plan, and the knocking down of the quadrant was the beginning of the 4th phase. At this point, 64% of the downtown Easton had been demolished from 1946 to 1976. So, the next day, Tim serendipitously meets somebody who can connect him with somebody in Washington, so he didn't have to go down there himself because he was ready to get on a bus and just go down to Washington himself. And he's able to get a court injunction to stop the demolition. This is the 4th day he's in town. Right? He just landed here in Easton, and he stopped something. Now, you got to keep in mind, thousands of residents have tried to fight this through the years, and they've gone to the Supreme Court, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and they failed. And they failed because there was something that wasn't declassified yet. We wouldn't know the real story. Now, Tim didn't even know what he did. So now his life's in danger. Because he didn't even realize what he did. He just disrupted millions of dollars of paving and concrete contracts in the city of Easton. Disrupted it. He has to go hide out in New York City. But he doesn't just hide. He comes back. He sets up a structure, a historic preservation structure in Easton. It ends up saving the Bachman House, ends up saving the State Theater. Now, it won't be till years later until Tim does his master's thesis on this. And it won't be until many years after that when the government actually declassifies what the hell happened. Why it happened. Do you want to know why 64% of the downtown was demolished from 1946 to 1976? It was only till recently we knew why. I'll tell you why. It's the Russians. The Russians are going to get the bomb, man. It's the end of World War II. We know what it can do because we dropped that shit on somebody ourselves. We saw what it can do to a population. So the Department of Defense starts funneling money into American cities to just demolish the housing but not rebuild it, to push the populations out to the suburbs. You didn't know that shit, did you? You didn't know that. This is everywhere around America this happened. And it happened right here in Easton. But you know what? Not too far after that, the Russians got a bomb that could blow up the whole East Coast. So it didn't matter if you were in a city or not. But the money still came in to demolish the cities. Why do you think that happened? Well, they called it urban renewal. But really what it was a way to break up racially diverse neighborhoods. And in Easton had a special racially diverse neighborhood. Now, we're going to look over this way, everybody, right? And we're going to imagine 3rd Street, the McDonald's, the parking garage, the Social Security building. We're over at Wawa, right? That whole area there. That used to be densely populated row homes with families and packed in people, and it was where the Italian, the African American, and the Lebanese communities had lived. Well, this was the first neighborhood they knocked down. And they would give some people 15 to 30-day notices that they had to get out. Now, they gave them some money to leave, to try to go, and yeah, just leave and go find another place. Here's some money. All right, where do you go, though? The suburbs aren't developed yet. Where do you go? And what had been a tight-knit community over generations now gets dispersed to the wind. And some people think that that was on purpose, because the Italians, Lebanese, and the African Americans in this community were getting along too well. See, because if you did something wrong in that neighborhood, your mom found out because everybody knew you. Everybody knew you. You were in this close neighborhood. And the memories that people have about this neighborhood. Well, one of those blocks, one of those neighborhoods was the Lebanese community. They called it Syria Town. It was on 4th Street. My father and my grandfather grew up there. They grew up there. And all my life, I have heard my father talk about 4th Street and how it's not there, it's gone. And he would lament over it. That they had something that was special, and it's gone, they tore it down. And he never knew why. I never knew why, our whole life, until now. Now I know why. Now I understand. Right? And so, one of his fondest memories about that neighborhood was when, and this shows how harmonious these races live together, is when the Italian marching band came down the street, came down 4th Street in the Lebanese community, and they played this song. They called it number 9 because it was the 9th song in their portfolio. That wasn't the name of the song, that's just what they called it. It went da 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 da. Some Italians might know what that is. The Lebanese community went crazy when the band came down the street playing that song. So now me here, I march a band down those same streets of Easton today. And when I look back and I see Tim Hare marching in our second line, singing and dancing on the streets he literally saved, I feel compelled to have to honor him. So the way I'm going to honor him is I'm going to make sure you guys know this story. So when you see Tim out in the world there, out in Easton, or in Connections, wink wink, tell him thank you for saving Easton. Thanks, Tim.
Jeremy Joseph. Fact of the matter is, Tim is with us.
Yeah.
So, I think that, you wouldn't know that. Honestly, there's a story there. So, it's a funny story. When this story's done, it'll be such a story.
And by the way, my copy of that graduate research, you have a copy here.
I do have a copy here. If anybody ever wants to borrow it and read it, I need it back, though. We are in the library for that.
Yeah.
Tim was kind enough to give it to us. It's one-sided, spiral bound, so don't mess it up. But seriously, it will be a story. And it's a good time right now. Thank you, Tim, for all you've done.